Okay, you guys. Happy Tuesday. So I wanted to get on here to talk about the book, ladies. The book that you guys need to go read. More and more women are getting to the place of, opting out of, relationships and things like that with men. And, now the red pill community is being exposed. A lot of men in these red pill spaces are being exposed. This toxic rhetoric that they have been spoon fed. Um, oh my God. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, I don't know what that was. All of this red pill stuff that these men have been consuming and listening to for the last couple of years, it's making you men very toxic. And women are saying we don't want to deal with you red pill men. And I believe that I have been coming across a lot of red pill men. These are these men who are walking around here talking about women who have high body counts. They don't want women who have high body counts. They're talking about women who have hit the wall. If you're over 30, you've hit the wall and all this stuff here. These Kevin Samuels talking points. You men have been sitting down, you've been listening to this rhetoric, you've been consuming this rhetoric, and now you think you're gonna get out here and date women. You're hollering about a whole male loneliness epidemic and all this stuff here after you've been sitting down talking crap about women and stuff. And women are saying now we just don't want to be bothered with you. And I can tell that you men have been listening to red pill rhetoric because you say the same talking points. You say the same talking points. You consume this crap. You believe it, and I can say this, that you men who are over the age of 30, you look busted. You look like a can of busted biscuits. You're not attractive. You got all kind of health problems. But you have convinced yourself that you are the prize and you deserve certain types of women who are very attractive. Women who have, gone to therapy and they're in shape and they're taking care of their skin and stuff. You think that you are entitled to these types of women and you're not entitled to them because some of you are still living in your mommy's house. You're living in your daddy's basement. You don't have a job. You don't have a car. You don't have any kind of job. You're not educated. You have nothing going for yourself, but you have convinced yourself that you are the prize and that you deserve access to certain types of women who have done the work and have done the healing. And unfortunately, women are now repulsed by you certain types of men, and they're opting out. And I wanted to get on here to share a book with you, ladies. Um, and this is a book that you guys can go and read. I'm gonna go on mute right quick so that I can make sure that I give you the right title. It is by a psychologist who believes that the majority of your, autoimmune disorders and neurological issues and health problems are coming from prolonged stress, like chronic stress. When you're constantly dealing with trauma or negativity, it can prolong and cause inflammation in the body. And then once this inflammation is in the body, it causes you to be sick. And then once you're sick, you're having all kind of health problems, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, insomnia, chronic fatigue, all kind of neurological problems, mental health issues, because the men that you're dealing with are literally wearing and tearing on your mental and emotional health. They are literally not benefiting you in any kind of way. All of that stress is sitting in the gut area. All that inflammation is sitting, you know, in your stomach area, your gut area. It's just causing all kind of issues like IBS, which is irritable bowel syndrome, um diarrhea, constipation, things like that. I don't want to be graphic. I'm just telling you what prolonged stress causes. And then, these men are just walking around here and they're getting into relationships with women, and they're not healed. They're broken. They got all kind of mental health problems, and they're expecting you to deal with them like this in relationships. And you guys are getting in relationships with these men, and you know they're not benefiting you any kind of way. They're not benefiting you in any kind of way. They're not making your life better. They're not adding anything into your life to enhance what you have going on. And unfortunately, you guys are getting stressed out. Your hair is falling out. You're having autoimmune disorders like lupus and Graves' disease and, RA. And, it's just, I can go on and on and on and on what stress does to the body. It is going to be important that you guys protect your peace. Okay? Because at the end of the day, these men are not here to bring you peace. These men refuse to go and get therapy. They refuse to work on themselves to be healed so that they can get in relationships with you. And, for somebody like me, I can't afford stress. I can't afford stress. I cannot afford to get in relationships with toxic, unhealed people who are just not doing anything for me. And a lot of you are just coming into women's life. You're not doing anything. You're not serving them mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. I mean, nothing. And you're literally making women sick. And this is what you men are doing. You're making women sick. So let me go on mute right quick, and I'm going to find. You can find this book on Amazon. I've had it in my old Kindle, but I need to get it. And I highly recommend that you guys read it. Please read it, because if you're going to deal with the man, he needs to benefit you mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually, as well as financially. And most of these men cannot do that. They can't do anything for you. Okay? But when you tell them that, they don't want to hear that. They just want you to deal with them in their low tier crap. And I'm telling you, ladies, do not settle for these men. Do not settle for that, okay? Because if these men are coming into your life and they can't do anything for you, they don't have anything to offer to you, then don't deal with them. Okay, so let me find this book. Okay, so I am going to have to find the book, and I am going to have to put it in my community wall. I don't want to give you guys the wrong book, but it's by a psychologist. He literally wrote this book pertaining to how stress causes different, health issues in the body, especially in women. It's a highly recommended book. I feel like women who deal with men in relationships, you're the one whose lifespans are very cut short, because you're dealing with all kind of prolonged stress dealing with these men that you're dealing with under the system. So when women are saying that they would rather choose peace, then this is what they're talking about. They're talking about peace where their health is not being impacted by men who do not benefit them. And truth be told, a lot of you men just do not benefit women. You don't serve anything to women. You're not coming to bring any production into women's lives. You're just causing unnecessary stress and chaos and turmoil. and it is wearing and tearing on women. And this is literally why we see so many women nowadays, exhausted in these relationships and marriages, on top of all of the emotional labor that they have to deal with children and household chores. Women are just tired. They're tired of the slave work. And when I find the book and everything, you guys, I am going to put it in the community wall. Today wasn't really a good day for me. I was a little bit overwhelmed and then just not feeling well. Sometimes my autoimmune disorders kind of have me feeling kind of tired and not feeling well. So I had to really relax today. But I am feeling a little bit better, okay, since I've kind of meditated, relaxed a little bit. But other than that, you guys, when I find the book, I am going to put it in my community wall. And you guys can go read it. Another couple of books that I like is um, Henry Townsend. He's another favorite author of mine. How to Set Boundaries, When to Say No, When to Say Yes. He's another favorite author of mine. And I think right now you ladies need to set boundaries with these men, because the issue is these men have just gotten away with murder. I just don't know how you ladies just constantly deal with the stress all day, every day. You know, I just don't know how. And then when you have children, it's very overwhelming. And these men just want you to get out here, have their babies, cook and clean and deal for them. And some of you just don't make time for yourself. The stress is going to kill a lot of you women. The stress is going to kill a lot of you women out here, especially dealing with these men, and you're not taking care of you and taking care of your health, and you're just continuously dealing, with these men who are not doing anything for you. And they're just coming and taking and taking and taking and taking and taking and taking. So when women like me say we're not going to deal with that, we would rather be single, this is what we mean. And unfortunately, if you men don't change and you don't step up and be these men for women, you guys are gonna get left behind. You're not gonna have access to women. Women are not gonna deal with you, and this is why I feel the way that I feel. Men and women should not be living together. We need our own spaces. Women can keep their spaces clean and their homes clean without you men coming in messing up things and all this stuff here. At the end of the day, it's just not worth it to be partnered. It's not worth it to get married. It's not worth it to have children. And when I look at my sister's marriages and things like that, I don't see how their unions are being benefited, because none of the men that they're married to actually benefit their lives. These men that my sisters are married to don't benefit their lives better than what they're already doing. They're being wore and torn down while they continuously deal with these men who are supposed to be husbands and providers. I'm done ranting, you guys. I'm gonna get off of here. This is my quiet time, journal time, and it's amazing when you can be child free, have no children, don't have to deal with children all day, don't have to deal with getting up, getting kids uniforms dressed, and get them ready for school. And I totally support child free women. But when you're not married, you don't have to deal with no man. You don't have to deal with no compromise. You don't have to deal with cooking for no man, cleaning up behind no man, or none of that. That is the joy of being single. Single and child free is going to be the best route from here on out. You guys have a good night. I will see you guys in the next one. When I find the book, I will put it in my community wall.